We've got a massive game down in Baton Rouge this Saturday, a game that will serve as a college football playoff elimination game, as number 11 Alabama takes on number 15 LSU in Death Valley. Can the Crimson Tide come on the road and win this game, or will LSU win a thriller at home just like they did 2 years ago? That's what we're here to break down today. So welcome back to the Gridiron Expert, here for this massive SEC showdown. As always, please continue to like, comment, subscribe, share our videos, and check out everything down in the description below. That includes our website, thegridironexpert.com, home of those exclusive expert picks, some of the best college football and NFL spread picks in the entire country, beating out over 80% of the national handicappers, not just this year, but each of the last 6 years as well. So if you want to win big with us, for one of the lowest prices in the country for a full year, 365 days. No other handicapper offers a deal that lasts that long. This is the place for you. So go sign up, join our team today. We want you to win big and become a member of our GE Nation. So Alabama LSU, man, this is a great SEC rivalry game for years and years and years. This has always been one of the top games in the conference, one of the most important games in the conference, and that once again is the case this season. Both teams entering the game at 6-2, both in the top 15 of the initial college football playoff rankings. Huge, huge, huge when it comes to the playoff hopes for both of these programs. The loser takes their third loss of the year, is practically eliminated from contention. The winner keeps those hopes alive to make that 12-team field. Alabama won last year's meeting 42-28, as we know, over in Tuscaloosa. But then the year before that, back in 2022, LSU won 32-31 in overtime. So what are we going to see here? We're going to see a double-digit victory for one of these programs, or we're going to see a game similar to 22 in Death Valley. My gut says it's going to be more like what we saw back in 2022. But we start on the offensive side of the ball. We'll start with Alabama. The question for them is which offense shows up. Which offense shows up? The Crimson Tide are averaging over 430 yards per game, over 250 passing yards per game, over 170 rushing yards per game, and they've got talent, right? That's the crazy thing. They've got talent. Jalen Milroe is phenomenal. Almost 2,000 rushing or passing yards on the year, 13 touchdowns. Has been relatively solid for the majority of the year. You've got great running backs. You've got Ryan Williams, the freshman phenom, who has over 700 reception yards and 7 touchdowns on the season. But they've sputtered over these last few weeks, right? They only mustered 27 points against South Carolina, 17 against Tennessee. Yes, they had 34 points and almost 500 yards of offense against a bad Missouri team. But Alabama, what they've done, the reason they're in this position, the reason they're 6-2 and number 11 and not number 1 or number 2 in the country is because they've been undisciplined and have continuously shot themselves in the foot. That's what they've done. In the last 4 games, a couple of those have losses in there, to Vanderbilt and Tennessee, they've committed 6 turnovers and have committed 35 penalties for 322 yards. If they played better football, if they took better care of the ball, they would have beat Tennessee, and one could argue they would have beat Vanderbilt, even though they were torched in that game against Diego Pavia and the Commodores. So Alabama's got to be significantly more disciplined. They've got to take significantly better care of the football, and that's very much easier said than done when you go into one of the toughest environments in the country, a night game in Death Valley. LSU, on the other hand, offensively, my phrase for them is all pass, no breaks, because they are a one-dimensional offense that does not know how to run the football. Garrett Nussmeier has been phenomenal this year, averaging over 330 passing yards per game. He has over 2,600 yards, 20 touchdowns on the season. They only average 115 rushing yards per game. That's good for 111th in the nation. So the running game is practically non-existent for LSU. It's all pass, no breaks. They want to throw the ball. They're good at throwing the ball. Nussmeier's been solid. Kyron Lacey has over 600 reception yards and 6 touchdowns. He's been very solid. The running game is practically a non-factor. It's been that way all year long. I don't expect it to change now against Alabama. But for LSU, they've got to find a way to put together a complete game as well. Against Texas A&M, they were phenomenal in that first half. They lost the game in the second half due to poor defensive play, unable to stop Marcel Reed, but also turnovers from Garrett Nussmeier, who has thrown 7 interceptions in his last 4 games. So similar to that of Alabama, the Tigers have to take very good care of the football. They cannot commit really bad mistakes that turn into Alabama points. So Nussmeier's got to settle down. He's got to take better care of the ball. He's got to make good decisions. And not allow Alabama to rattle him. They've got the home crowd on their side. Things are going their way. The offensive line's been phenomenal. So settle down and take very good care of the football, something that he was unable to do against Texas A&M. Major reason why I lost that game in College Station. The defense for Alabama. The defense for Alabama, that's going to be the storyline here. What can they do to stop this one-dimensional LSU offense? What can they do to stop Garrett Nussmeier, who, again, has been phenomenal this year? Yes, the Alabama defense was very good their last time out. Shut out Missouri 34-0, but that was a very beat-up Missouri team. Not taking anything away from that. Anytime you shut out an opponent, especially a conference opponent, and at the time it was a top 25 opponent, it's a very impressive feat. But that Missouri team was banged up at running back, they were banged up at quarterback, they were banged up defensively, and again, I'm not taking the right away from Alabama, but that was not a full-strength team. This is still a team that allowed 411 yards to Tennessee, 343 yards to South Carolina, 418 yards to Vanderbilt. A little bit inconsistent there. They're 43rd overall defensively, giving up over nearly 340 yards per game, only 193 passing yards per game. They've only allowed over 250 passing yards twice this year, once to Vanderbilt and the other to Georgia. So, the key for Alabama is finding a way to generate pressure on Garrett Nussmeier. You know the running game's not going to be that much of a factor. You know LSU's not going to be able to run it that effectively against you. So, as a team that wants to throw the ball almost every single play, or very, very often, how do you disrupt that? How do you disrupt that? You've got to draw up some pressure, and that's easier said than done. Alabama's defensive line hasn't been that great in generating pressure. Only 18 sacks on the year. LSU's offensive line has only allowed 4 sacks all year. It's been one of the best offensive lines in the country. So the offensive line has been phenomenal. Alabama's defensive pressure hasn't been all that great. Yes, they forced interceptions, 11 of those on the year. They've got to find a way to force Nussmeier into turnovers. He's been turnover happy these last 4 games. If that trend continues, Alabama could be in good shape to pull off this win in Death Valley. LSU, on the other hand, they've improved, right? Their defense was atrocious last year. They're still not great this year, but they've certainly improved. 58th overall, giving up just 360 yards per game, 230 through the air, 131 on the ground. So their defense is pretty stingy against the run. Hasn't been too bad. The key for them, I'm going back to last year on this one. Stop Jalen Milroe, specifically containing Jalen Milroe. When you have such a dangerous dual threat quarterback like Milroe at your disposal, you're going to use him, and that's a nightmare for opposing defenses to have to deal with. Last year, LSU lost in Tuscaloosa 42-28. That game was back and forth. Jaden Daniels got hurt in that game. If he had played the entire game, it could have very well been a one-possession game when it was all said and done. But last year, the LSU defense had no answer for Jalen Milroe. He had 155 rushing yards and 4 rushing touchdowns on the day to go along with 219 passing yards. So he had a massive day, nearly 400 yards of offense just by himself. Last year, LSU had no answer for him. Do they have one now? Do they have the ability to not pressure him? You don't even have to get sacks or anything. Just keeping him in the pocket. Someone spying on him, someone drawn up to the point where if he exits the pocket and rolls out, someone's there to make sure he cannot scramble and pick up a big first down conversion to pick up 30 yards on a run by himself. That's what you have to do. And that's tough. You've got to be able to keep him honest, but you also have to be able to contain Ryan Williams. It's a very tough task for this Blake Baker-led defense. But that's the key for LSU, is making sure Jalen Milroe does not torch you like he did last year, and maybe finding a way to force him into mistakes. Milroe, 4 interceptions in his last 3 games. If LSU can find a way to get 1 or 2 of those and convert, they'll be looking good at home. So ultimately, guys, what's going to happen here? This is a really, to me, a toss-up kind of game. This is really could go either way. Both teams have looked good at times this year. Both teams have looked very bad at times this year. You never really know what you're going to get on a given week from Alabama or LSU this season. That's a very kind of crazy thing to say. But ultimately for me, I believe in the power of Death Valley. I believe in the power of Baton Rouge and Death Valley, especially at night. Brian Kelly, since taking over at LSU, is 13-0 on night games at LSU. He has not lost at home, at night, at LSU. It has not happened. And I don't believe that's going to change now. Alabama has been wildly undisciplined, unable to handle some of the road environments they've encountered, just like Tennessee, somehow just like Vanderbilt. They've been very turnover happy. They haven't played the style of Alabama ball we've been used to seeing under Nick Saban. No one expected that to be the case, but maybe no one expected it to be this bad. LSU is at home. They're a very good team. Again, keep in mind this team was dominating A&M in that first half. If they had found a way to get a couple more scores, I think that margin would have been too great for even Marcel Reed to overcome. LSU is a dang good football team. They're a dang good football team. And I do believe that Garrett Nussmeier delivers. I do believe that LSU finds a way to contain Jalen Milroe. I do believe it's going to be very, very, very close. but give me the Tigers, a rare underdog at home, to get the win over Alabama, keep their college football playoff hopes alive, and end the Crimson Tides in mid-November. Alabama takes their third loss of the year. Who would have thought that? LSU, a massive win at home, still remaining college football playoff contenders. So guys, as always, thank you so much for watching us here at the Gridiron Expert on YouTube. Make sure you continue to like, comment, subscribe, share our videos, and of course, check out everything down in the description below. That includes our website, thegridironexpert.com, home of those exclusive expert picks. Do not miss out on the chance to sign up for those today. Take advantage of the picks that we have coming your way for Week 11. The link for that, again, down in the description below. And once again, as always, thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you next time right here on the Gridiron Expert.